Welcome to the Impact Effect podcast. I'm fired up today because we've got an amazing guest. Kate Hickey is in the house. Kate Hickey is in the house.
Let's
and guess
go.
what? She just had first day of school.
First day of school.
First day of school. So I'm just giving her an applause before we even jump into this thing for being here right
Thank you.
now.
So much I like you, Jim. I was thinking about ways to quit on you last night, but here I am.
Well, thank you.
Without
Thank
a
you.
beer, but it's fine. I'm excited for my water, as equally excited.
But as you know, the first question that we ask every guest is, how do you define impact? And what does that mean to you? And how do you show up in the world and provide impact today?
I love the question. I think for me, impact is a special one because not only is it how we are able to help people, that's what impact is for me. That's how I translate that. Now, my favorite part about this is, as a teacher and an educator, I love the idea of how can I help you find your talents so that you can impact others.
Ooh, I like that.
And I love that about my work and a purpose.
Yep.
And so how can I help you find your purpose so that you can create impact? Because that is exponentially more powerful.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're the conduit to opening up impact for multiple individuals throughout the whole day.
And it's like I'm a teacher. And the hard part about this, I think, that is that a lot of us, well, in any age, especially youth, you're having a hard time. I mean, any of it, what are we going to be when we grow up? We still can't answer that question.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure put on us, especially in the American culture, I find, for us to find our purpose and what am I supposed to be doing and what's next and, how am I using my talents, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to know those answers.
Societal norms almost at this point.
Yeah. So I love being able to help people unpack that for themselves.
I love it.
It's a special, gift, and I feel like it's the gift that keeps on giving.
When did you make that decision?
Oh my gosh.
Because it's very it's selfless. It's not selfish. It's very let me help others create this ripple and this overall arching impact.
I think I've always been this way, even as a kid. But I think lately it's because I've found my purpose and it feels so good. I want to help others, and it's something that I have a talent for, sort of uncovering. Okay, what makes you you? When are you flowing? Let's figure this out. Working to find that for somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. How did you come about that? Did you have any mentorship that helped you find your purpose, or was it something that just kept popping up and you're like, I got to pay a little bit more attention to this, or did you just know?
I didn't just know. I had to do a lot of stuff that didn't fit for me until I came into teaching. And then
same here. Like
it's normal.
I was talking to someone recently and they were like, I just knew from a young age, and I was like, that was not me. I was a disaster.
Yeah, I would say that most of us need to be a disaster because we need to go find all these things that don't fit for us before we land. And I don't even mean land. I mean before we do what we do at this moment, because that's going to change. And I think we need to normalize that a little bit more.
Totally.
Especially for young kids who think like, I have to pick now. Will I be a dentist or a veterinarian? Like there's so many options that that they don't even know about yet. So, for me, it was about figuring out that this was a fit for me and also understanding my values as a person. And I figured out my values, luckily, early on, which are, and I can recite them for you if you care.
Let's hear them, yeah, of course.
They are authenticity, fun. It needs to be hardworking. That's how I grew up. Creative. And autonomous. And if you think about teaching, it hits all of those.
I was just going to
say,
as you were going through them, I was like, you get to be
fun,
you.
creative,
You get to
myself,
you get to create.
Autonomous, yeah. So that was a real unlock for me.
Wow.
To figure those out and then say, I'm so aligned with that. How can I bring other people along, to find out where they're in alignment?
Of course. I think the core values and like really working on you allows us to help others.
Yes.
Okay, well, I figured this out. This is my path. This is where I'm at. Well, let me teach this. Let me help navigate someone else who may be struggling or it may be of importance. The other thing too is like thinking back on my life, this stuff wasn't talked about when I was in school. So, as you're talking, I'm thinking, I'm like, these kids are getting an experience that I was never,
Yeah.
even opened up to, like talking about core values and passion and purpose and what's working and what's not. Those were never conversations. I think the conversation was what I created when I was in high school, and it was go get money because you don't have any, and
Right.
whatever needs to happen happens,
Yeah.
and that's terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're pouring into these kids in a way that you do and show up, and it's amazing because I just didn't experience it. No one I can even think of probably experienced something like that.
And if you did, you remember it. I think my frustration, Jim, though, honestly, is that it's still that old way. It's still archaic in the way that you just described
Really?
it. And so that's kind of my purpose is I want to be like a game changer and a disruptor in especially high school education.
Yes.
To talk about the fact that there's not just one way to live your life. It's a map dot plot. This isn't this linear line where we're all going down. You must go to college and then you must do the next thing. There's many ways that this can be done and kind of shake up sort of the traditional trajectory of education, and having conversations like you have around vulnerability and just honesty.
Yeah.
That we're focused a little bit too much on the curriculum, in my opinion, and I want to pull back. Everywhere else, corporate, everywhere else in the world has figured out that it's about this social and emotional learning. It's about these skills that you need. This needs to trickle down into education, and that's what my TEDx Old Hickory talk is about.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
go.
hyped. I'm pretty pumped. Yeah.
We're gonna get into that into a second, but
Okay.
I want to stop real quick because as you were saying that, I was thinking through, disruption, something that I love, right? Radical change. It's something I love so much that I talk about it more in my talks than the word impact, because impact to me is change, but disruption is radical change. I also want to highlight something that you said too. What you described and how you look at school and the situation and scenario you're in that's true leadership to me, right? Like you are a leader, you're disrupting, you're doing not necessarily the norm, but what you believe in and you want to lead people to where you've developed and it's helped you navigate life.
It helps me so much.
So I
in
just
the
wanted to point
fact-
that out, that
Thank
that's
you.
true leadership
Well, the
to
cool
me.
part
Like,
about it is that when you're in front of kids that you want to be a certain way, you become that way, right? So
Yep.
I want them to be brave. I expect them to take risks. I need to take risks.
Yep.
If I'm asking them to do something that's hard, different, big, then I have to be doing all of these things.
Of course.
So it levels up your game when you look out at all of these people and think to yourself, what do I want for them? Well, then I need to be that.
yeah.
And I love that about the power of a teacher, because it constantly is making us focus, and it's the same for you as a facilitator, as a speaker. You're focused on, if you're a good one, you're focused on what do they get, what do they need, and how can I be that for them?
Yes. It's not about you. It's
No,
about
it's special.
them.
It's a real, it's an honor for
Yeah.
me.
It's interesting. You were talking about your TED Talk, kind of bleeding into my TED Talk now
Okay.
around human connection. So, and I'll give a little preview. This may come out right after our talks, but that human connection that you have with someone is why you're doing those things, right? And mine talks about following your dreams, and there's different examples. But, what I heard is you're passionate about creating radical change, disruption for those children, which in turn you have a connection with them.
Mm-hmm.
So in turn, it's pushing you to follow your dreams. It's pushing you to be more brave. It's pushing
Yeah.
you to inspire. It's right. So it's this funny wheel of life almost, where it's like it all starts with that connection.
Yeah.
And you benefit just as much as the person, which in turn you should be doing it for. But it's that mutual win-win. Like that to me is just beautiful human connection. So not to go too deep into that, but I can see the similarity in the through line amongst what you're talking about, what I'm talking about. I also wanted to bring up, and this hit me maybe a year and a half ago, right before the conference I threw last year. I had one of the speakers, Jamie Miller, and he was telling me, he was like, hey, how do you learn the most? And I was like, oh, reading books and webinars and collaborating and talking to people and doing what we're doing right now. Like, I'm learning from you, right? And he was like, I don't learn from that. I learn the most when I teach. And it came back to
Oh
what
yeah.
you just said of like,
Oh yeah.
we've got to we've got to do these things or jump through these hoops or have this framework or outline or knowledge teed up, and we got to
To
know
a
it
teachable level.
and learn
Sure.
it so you can teach it.
Sure. Yeah.
And in that, I'm actually learning more than if I read the
That's
book.
right.
I'd
Always.
rather read the book and act like I have to teach a class
That's
on
right.
it, and then I'll learn it at a higher
That's
level.
right.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like this cheat code of doing what you do at
Yeah.
such a high level day in and day out. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is the hack. I mean, if you look at the hierarchy of learning and what your retention is, reading is the lowest, speaking is watching, and then teaching is literally the highest retention
Wow.
of any kind of information because, right, you have to know it to a teachable level of which you could answer questions to, of which you
Yes.
can build on. I mean, that's the magic sauce. That if you're studying anything or looking to do anything, teach it.
I'm thinking through that now, and I'm like, okay, I got to get better with this camera equipment. Maybe I need to teach an AV course or something.
Yeah.
So back to you, back to teaching, back to the kids. What's been a situation and a scenario that you've faced where you truly had to become a better leader, or you had to go, okay, I definitely want to do this, but being the leader I am, I'm going to do this. Have you ever faced any challenges around leadership being a teacher?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a specific example. Let's see. Probably, I have to make decisions whether or not I'm going to decide to go there, right? If we're having like a difficult time and I can tell that someone's having a difficult time in class or just with like the curriculum per se.
Yep.
And having to pivot and, okay, is this a time right now where I want to stop the class and will everybody benefit from this lesson? And a lot of times the answer is yes. So I do a lot of, timeouts for, okay, let's talk about this. Look, this person just left the classroom. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but they're struggling, right? So I'm going to go talk to this person. I'm going to figure this out, work it out. I'm going to come back in. And when I do, I would like you to understand that this person just needs some space, but has to come back into this room and kind of how are we going to... Taking timeouts to have a lot of these real life skills that they need.
I was just going to say, I was hoping you brought up a situation like this around the social side that you were talking about. So thank you for going here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine, and how you need to protect everybody in that room in some of those situations.
That's so sometimes hard calls, like the individual for the group.
Yeah.
And then, is this a time where the group's going to learn here? Does that make sense in this scenario? You've also got to be thinking about, parents and laws. And I mean, there's many things going through your mind at the same time, but.
Parents and laws.
Yeah. We'll just keep it there. Parents,
all
laws.
those boundary things that we don't like.
Oh, that's not a fun part of your job, but
it's part of it.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the balancing act.
And I think there's a reality in that too of like, you making a game time decision based on your training, based on where your heart lies, based on, what you believe is right. And without a parent being there or someone outside of the classroom not actually being there, how can they actually analyze that situation, So I hear you.
It's tricky.
And I've definitely read articles and things, and I'm like, this is just crazy. Like, no one was actually in that room with that person. So I just applaud teachers in general and admire what y'all do and are grateful for you.
Thanks.
Definitely want to make sure you understand that because I know that this can be tough, especially I agree with you how you look at it and with the archaic system and the soft skills and the social and understanding people and how this world works, not so much necessarily what's in a book from 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That
we have Google. What we need to be teaching kids these skills. If we're going to launch them into a world where that's the value, we need to reverse engineer it and look back and say, okay, is this what we're doing in the classroom? And the answer, unfortunately, is a lot of times no.
I mean, I see this in adults. People don't know how to fact check or verify information, so they just spread it and right and I don't blame people because sometimes you may think it's true. And I wonder if is there a class or should there be a class on how to verify information you Google? And like I'm thinking, you've got my mind like
Yeah.
modernized now of like, what do I see adults struggle with?
Right.
We
And
all know how to
imagine.
use the internet. A lot of people push around shit that they don't fact check and
Right.
is on
ChatGPT,
literally just not
AI.
true.
Right.
Like
Right.
10 sources, but they believe it, which is scary. It's scary because they have a ripple effect. They have an influence. But I'm just thinking through, I'm like, how do we get ahead of stuff like that?
And that's one class of about 40 that needs to be taught in high school, right?
Yeah.
That needs to be different. I mean, if you look at the world and how it's changed, go to a classroom and think about a classroom in the 1950s, same desks, teacher in front of the classroom, sit and get learning. I mean, we
How do you
need
feel
to be
about the
better.
comparison to prison and school?
The comparison of prisons and schools?
Like same lunchroom setups, same style desks, same concrete block walls, painted white or gray.
Oh, I think that's pretty harsh. Maybe because I'm an optimist. I think I get where I
I
get where it's
saw a
going, but I think that's a
comparison.
little brutal.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
if you went in my classroom, it looks like a fiesta threw up in there. Like, you know what I mean? We're vibe, like it's a vibe. Like
You're
we're having a good
vibing,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't like that. I think it's a little too harsh, and I want to make sure that teachers get a ton of credit for like
course.
a lot of the good work that they're doing and the environments that we're creating. I think more of my beef comes from
Well,
up top.
let's pause right there.
Yeah.
You're creating those environments. Like, let's give credit to who deserves it, right?
Yes, and then a lot of my fantastic colleagues.
And oftentimes, that's at your expense, right? Some of those things you have to bring into the classroom.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it kind of depends, right? District to district, school to
Gotcha,
school,
okay.
teacher to teacher.
Not so much you, but
principal.
maybe some others.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'm like teachers across the country.
Okay.
All of us are. Every time we go to the grocery store, we buy something for our kids, and we buy something for our kids that we birthed.
Yes.
Right. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I say kids. I mean my children.
Yeah.
And then I have kids, and those are my students.
Yeah.
And so, yes, every teacher, whether they have the funding or not, is pouring money and energy into their students.
Yes.
And they don't know any other way because they're not going to say no.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
How can you say no?
I'm not going to
It's
say
hard,
no.
yeah.
It's just not. So
Yeah.
you just figure it out and you do it.
You were saying something. I cut you off. Sorry.
I forgot.
I was thinking of a meme I saw with the comparison to prison, and you were saying your classroom.
Oh, yeah.
And how it's a vibe. So.
It's a vibe. Yeah. That comparison is a little bit harsh, but my point being that we're still operating a little bit on an old operating system. And I'd love to see the push for social emotional learning. I mean, I'm going to die on this hill. Social emotional learning all day, all night. It's so important for them to have some of these soft skills, and we need to explicitly teach them in school.
Yeah.
Not just assume that your parents are doing it. Because I don't know about you, but like when you're a teenager, did you listen to your parents? No. It was the last person you were listening to, right? So us as teachers, we have such an impact and such a voice in these kids' heads. So, I mean, this is the perfect opportunity in high school to have a lot of these skills be taught and be a part of the curriculum and a part of their day. They want it. They're listening.
I was gonna say
they're ready.
I was gonna say,
They know.
Do you feel that?
They
pull?
know.
Yeah.
They know. If I ever have a thing where I go, okay, guys, we're going to talk. Well, let me pause. Do you want me to tell you about life? Like life? And they'll be like, life. And I'll talk to them. You know,
Yes.
they're dying for those kinds of interactions because they know that that's kind of the magic sauce and what they need to hear. Whether it's motivation or, you know, cutting off your negativity bias and how to talk to yourself. I mean, you know, I just said today to the class.
I was
Hey,
gonna
guys.
say I want to hear some of this.
Okay,
You're getting me excited
Well,
over here.
I was talking about.
I'm like, I gotta sit in Kate's class maybe.
Come on, vamos a clase, vamos, venga. So we're sitting in class, and I just said, hey, listen, there's lots of people in here that might know each other and people that don't, but I want to ask you, are you the same person that you were your freshman year? A lot of your juniors, are you the same person? Think of yourself freshman year. And they're all like, ooh, you know, kind of cringing. I'm like, yeah, look, think about that outfit. Yeah. So we talked about, okay, tell me about your freshman. Great. Yeah. You're different. Are you not in these 2 years of growth? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. We're different. Okay, great. Well, give people a new chance. Give the people around you a new year. They deserve a new year too. You might have had some beef with them 2 years ago, or something that you thought, they did or said to this person, or maybe they don't like. This is your story
It's the
you've
little
told
drama,
yourself.
we know.
This is
Yep,
the story
yep.
you've told yourself. Give everybody a new chance this year. Everybody gets a new year.
Wow.
Okay, everybody gets
It's
a new year.
powerful. It's powerful.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to weave in and out of lessons, just because that's where the magic sauce is for me.
Well, it's a life lesson that you can remember and analyze and bring into your world in so many different ways.
The preterite verb chart is making it nowhere. Okay, in Spanish. I mean, it's not.
That's where I go
This
wrong
is the
in
stuff-
Spanish.
Oh, is that where you
Took 4
dipped out?
years, and I was like,
Yeah.
all right, now it's just getting too
Yeah,
crazy.
Too many irregulars. Yeah, that's the stuff that you remember, and that's the stuff that counts.
It's talk to me about some students that struggle with some of that stuff. Like, do you see when you're talking through some of those social things, like certain students, and you're like, and their eyes open, or like,
Yeah.
can you feel that kind of who needs
Oh,
that more
yeah.
and who doesn't?
Same
like,
way you can in an audience, you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
And especially when you're attuned to somebody and you have a long, you get many months with them, which is what was kind of special about what I do. Yeah, of course. I mean, anxiety is rampant through high schools right now. Rampant. And we're the problem is we've started this at a very young age with our kids. With sports, which are individualized, if you think about it.
Yep.
Right? So you're out to make the team, not to help others make the team, not to lift up your teammates, but you're out to make the team, the cheer team, the football, whatever it is.
You versus everybody else that's fighting for the same spot. Yeah.
So the problem is, and we've started travel baseball when you're like 4 years old. Okay? So we've created this environment where they're competitive. We've also created an environment where there's a lot of pressure. I mean, to get into college, when we were kids getting into college, I mean, you had to have like a face. Oh, well, tell your brother. I mean, anyone got in. It's not that way anymore. It's super competitive. You have to have high scores, which means you've got to have a great GPA. I mean, it's a snowball effect of this anxiety that a lot of kids are experiencing. So I'm doing a lot of work to talk to them about, look, this anxiety is because of pressures that you've put onto yourself.
Yeah.
And pressures that you can remove from yourself. You're missing the experience because you're so nervous. And none of this stuff is going to come true. All the stuff you're nervous about, none of it's going to come true.
Yep.
So
creating that picture that doesn't exist and no one else knows it exists besides you.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen. So the only person you've hurt in that is you,
True.
because you thought it, you felt it, and it never happened, and you didn't even share it with anybody else.
Right. And to show them, I think the biggest part of that in doing it in a classroom setting, which is really powerful, is that you're realizing, oh, everyone's freaking out too. Everyone thinks they need to have all the answers. Everyone thinks that they're supposed to have it all figured out, and going, okay, I'm comfortable now, knowing that everyone around me is freaking out for no reason.
Well, I think it goes back to your core values of authenticity and being authentic,
Yeah.
right? Is the
That's massive for
societal
me.
norms are not to be authentic,
Yeah.
right?
I'm
You're
gonna agree with
weird,
that.
you're odd, you're disrupting, be comfortable, do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like back in the day, there was one store and everybody wore the same
Yeah.
shoes.
What store?
Bob's stores.
Bob's? What's Bob's?
Bob's, yeah.
I thought you were going to say Spencer's. I don't know why I thought
Massachusetts.
you were like a Spencer's dude.
It's just like
Bob's shoes, huh?
I'm gonna
It's Lululemon now.
I was gonna say everything is
Lululemon.
Lulu. $350 later.
Yeah.
But I remember like, oh, your other classmates have those, or like it was all just the norm. Even though I wanted like the crazy orange ones.
Yeah.
But I got the white Nikes, and everybody had the white Nikes,
Yeah.
and it was okay, cool. No one's gonna say anything,
Yeah.
and that was what I was taught, and was societal norms for me. Fast forward, and now all I want to do is disrupt because it's who I am by nature, and I am an odd dude. I am weird. I am unique. Like, I'm not for everybody. And moving from Boston, and you can probably appreciate this, moving and having different experiences to Nashville for me was like, wow, I am odd. Like, there's no convincing anybody at this point, you know? Like, I talk different. I mean, I don't have much of a Boston accent as I used to, but those things were so in my face that I had to be okay with it at 27 years old when I moved here. Because I was like, this is me.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody. I
You're
don't have
lucky you
friends.
figured that out at 27. Most people don't figure that out ever.
I was gonna say it was one of those things where it was lonely and it was different, and I made mistakes and I consumed a lot of alcohol down on Broadway. Yep, and I did those things, right, but I learned from them, and it's funny, like this scally cap. When I moved here, I didn't wear a scally cap because everybody made fun of me, and I mean, people literally thought, they're like, "Are you from
Are you
England?
part of the Peaky Blinders?
Are you from England?"
Peaky fucking Blinders?
Yeah, that's exactly what most people.
I just want there to be a
and
razor
then you
blade
put
in
my,
there.
you know, my nice long pea coat on in the
Oh,
winter,
yeah.
and people are like, "We don't wear that shit around here."
No.
And I'm like, "This is like the only jacket I own."
Right.
Like, it's cold as hell up in Boston.
But wouldn't it be cool if you were little Jim in high school and that somebody had valued and seen that quality in you and praised you for bravery and being different?
That's what I'm getting at is you are the conduit to give people the opportunity to do that.
Right.
Where I had to literally move to a different state down south that I never even been to, didn't know anybody, to forcefully push myself in a state of, I'm just going to do me, and
Yeah.
I can always go back. Right?
cool part of
Like I
that,
can always
too-
go back home. Like, that was
Yeah.
always my
Yeah,
thought.
yeah. Abort.
Hey,
Yeah.
you know, I'll live on the couch with my brother and,
Yeah.
you know, give me 30 days and I'll have money and a new job and I'll be fine. But that's not normal. Like, most people are like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And most mentors, even when I made that move, were like, what the hell is wrong with you? You know no one. You don't even have a Facebook friend in Nashville.
Oh, Facebook. That's actually
You've never
pretty
even
low.
visited. I've never even been
Oh,
here
wow.
before.
Yeah.
And I got an apartment as I was driving here, just over the phone. It ended up working out very well. But there was a lot of risk, right? That's
Yeah.
abnormal to most people. But it was the best thing I could have done because it broke through of, I am out of place. Let's see how this goes. I'm just going to be me. Whereas in Boston, it was trying to fit in and do all those things. You know?
And I think that's the crazy part about about impact and authenticity that I tell my students a lot is it's gonna come through the hardest times. So if you're thinking that we're just gonna take this little test, we have this little test in high school where you take it, right? It's supposed to be like, you know, you're gonna be a firefighter. I mean, how can you take a test and it tells you what you're gonna be for the? There's no way. But kids put a lot of credit into this test.
Oh,
thinking
that's
that
my life.
Right. Okay.
This test
is
told
at least
me.
giving me an answer, and
Because we're looking for
there
answers
is-
at that age,
There
right?
is no way. There is no way for any age for you to get to anything good and gritty, authentic or impactful without it being difficult.
Yep.
The hardest stuff. Our move to Spain, that's where my kids got their gift of grit. Our move back again, right? And now has given them purpose and allowed them to sort of spread their impact too, even at the ages of 12 and 14, which is really neat. But it always comes out of the hardest stuff. So if you're in the hard stuff, I always go, oh, lucky you. You're the one. When you're done with this, you're going to finish it. You're going to be fine. When you're done with this is going to be what writes your story. All these people over here just in la la land skipping through life, they just won't have the depth of knowledge that you have, nor the empathetic abilities, nor the direction that you have when you come out on the other side of this. That's a cool, comforting thing to know when you're young, is to say, hey, all the crap is going to be the best stuff, but you'll see. Trust me.
Man, you're hitting
Fun.
me. You're hitting me.
It's a
you're
cool-
hitting
it's
me.
a cool
You're
thing to
hitting
say
me
to
right
someone.
here. You're hitting me right here. You got my mind is burning on fire. You talked about having empathy, being empathetic. You won't have the opportunity to do that or whatnot. Like, I never thought about that. I never thought about, like, even events, right? Conferences. I'm so much more empathetic to someone who takes the risk of a conference because I went through hell last year. Like, hell. And I never would be empathetic to that person for doing such a big thing because I had no idea how ridiculously hard it is.
When you say you went through hell, do you mean with the conference?
Yeah.
To put it on?
to put it on
Yeah.
and to get the partnerships and people flaking and in and out and sign contracts, but not
right.
doing what's literally signed in a contract and just broken just the whole thing because it's 300 people in a 66,000 square foot venue.
Yeah.
That's a 2-day thing. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into that, but I'm just so much more empathetic because I had to go through that to
So
the
when Amanda
person that's
Banks, and
struggling.
this is let's circle back, right? So our TEDx coordinator, her name is Amanda Banks, and she's a fantastic coach, and she she gives us deadlines to meet, and I noticed that you had said on our group chat of all of us speakers, you said, don't forget today you're due our deadline was due for our outline for our TED Talk, and I thought to myself, he's put on a conference and he knows how she feels, and this deadline really matters to her. And for anybody that's been in that situation, you now are changed because of that.
It's funny you bring that up because I did talk to Amanda about that, and I knew it was important, and I did it.
Snowballs.
I did it for her, but I also did it for you because I care about the group, and I didn't want anybody in our little pod
to have forgotten.
Because if you forgot, you wouldn't be on the stage in September. Like,
Yeah.
I know that because there is deadlines for that reason because there's multiple things have to go in play. And so I just didn't want anybody to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it was a twofold. It was.
That's great.
Yeah.
My assumption was that the impact.
It's important
that
for
it's
her
gonna have.
to get it because
Yeah.
she's got things lined up and other people involved to review it. And
Yeah, and that goes back to that empathy piece. So.
It's just, I just never thought of it like that though. Like, wow, we go through those situations. It almost gives us immediate empathy and grace for anybody going through it.
That's where we get all of it from. It's
and then
never
that
happening in the
alignment
happy
with,
times.
and then this is the beauty. The alignment when you're empathetic that happens from it, and like the human connection and the relationship, like, I mean, it's amazing to call Amanda a friend and to be able to talk to someone about the crazy shit that happens at conferences. Like, crazy shit. Like, crazy shit. But you can't talk to someone who doesn't get it because there's not compassion behind it, right? Like, part of that being empathetic is like, there is true compassion. Like, I care about you. And it's amazing when you have that. And yeah, Amanda is that for me. So yeah, you made a great comparison. Let's talk about TEDx. How's the journey?
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize it was a journey. I had no idea.
It's crazy.
And it was cool because from the very beginning, from that first phone call, I figured it out really fast. From the moment that I took that phone call, that she said, you've been selected. And then I had to go lose it, right? And then I had to be like, can I call you back? Let me go lose it. So I lose
Run it through the house.
I was losing it. Yeah. I was, So I called her back and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. And she's like, well, this journey, and she started describing it. Well, truly, when she said journey, I kind of didn't get it. It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's really neat. It's unlike anything else that I thought public speaking. I've done a lot of public speaking. I didn't think, okay, it would just be, you give another speech. It's nothing like that. I love the cohort part of it.
Yep.
I love the fact that we've been so lucky to be coached at TEDx Old Hickory. A lot of people I'm learning don't have that same experience. So I'm grateful to that. I'm grateful to the team of people that we've got. And it's
Amanda
just
cares.
Yeah.
She doesn't necessarily just care about her. She cares about us as speakers, and I think that's the difference.
Yes.
This isn't just to throw you on stage, and if you fuck it up, you fuck it up.
No. And tons of resources.
Hey,
and
you haven't scheduled a one-on-one. If you need me, I'm here. Like, hey, how's it going? Hey,
I really think that all of us are fantastic public speakers, but she's turning us into TEDx Old Hickory speakers. That's different.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until going through this process. I've learned a ton. I've really upped my game, changed a lot of things, learned a lot. I'm sure you have too.
This has actually been a huge struggle for me.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the hardest things I've done from a writing speech standpoint.
100% for me too.
And
I didn't think it would be. I thought it would be light work. I was pumped. I'm like, all right, I got this. No problem. I know what I'm going to talk about. It's nothing like that because gratefully so. I'm so glad because if you go back and look at old TED Talks, it became a little bit of the Wild West. And so as I watch some old ones, I'm going, yeah, you know what? I'm frustrated that was allowed.
Same.
So now I'm going, hey, I'm grateful that they're putting us through the ringer.
Yeah.
It needs to be impactful. It needs to be spoken to a specific audience. All of these things that we have to make sure happen as an audience member, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and listen to crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
your
felt the
story,
same way too.
or with nothing that like is some sort of through line that's bringing us back,
Yep.
or with I'm walking away feeling, that I cannot, that there wasn't an ask.
Yep.
All these things I'm grateful for.
Same. It's I think
I'm grateful now that I'm kind of done, but I wasn't. I was pissed because it's hard. It's hard.
It is. I mean,
It still is. I mean, I got a long way to go. In 39 days, I've got a lot of work to do.
yeah, same.
What are we doing here? What we should be.
Actually, yeah, we're
And
gonna
that's
cut
a
this
cut.
short. Yeah, we're gonna cut this short. I think for me, it was the magnitude and the opportunity. Really, put some pressure on me, and meaning myself, right? Like
Yeah.
I addressed that and put pressure on me, and it kind of had me in the standstill. And I've never been like that. I've never struggled writing a speech.
I relate to you
I
very much.
usually write it and it's done, and I go back and we'll make some edits. I usually, this is, I think, the difference for me is I never memorize a speech
I know.
in my entire life.
Yeah.
I've never memorized a speech. I've practiced and I've had an outline, but I've never actually written out.
Me neither.
I believe that human connection is.
Right.
I've never
I know.
I've never spoke like that
I'm struggling with
because
that.
my energy.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna be so. This is a new skill that I have to learn.
Me too.
And I like to free flow because I believe that I'm aware when I start losing people, right? So if I free flow and go this way, I think I have an okay sense to not like go
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
nuts. So yeah, this was a struggle. I've put a lot of pressure on myself.
Me too. It's
Just to being real, like
me
it's,
too.
When I wrote
Yeah.
that outline, I broke down and cried out of joy. Like
Yeah?
I was like, "This is it."
Do you
This
feel
is-
good about? You feel
this,
like that's it?
I'm like, "This is gonna change. This is gonna change people's lives."
That's
like,
awesome.
but it was no sleep. A
Yeah.
couple. I'd probably say a week of just not
Yeah.
really getting sleep, thinking about it, and just couldn't even get it to paper.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's
for
all
me,
pressure I'm putting on myself.
No,
but
I'm right there with you. For me,
it's definitely real.
it's coming up with my whole like life's work and heart and head in under 18 minutes. I mean, how are you going to say all of this? And I was reading in the TED Talk book by Anderson, who says the first part of it is you have to have a funeral for half of the speech you wanted to give. And I really did. I was like, okay, good night, little speech that will never live to see this light of the day.
I can
now,
just picture you sitting at your
oh
desk
God,
and you're
R.I.P.
like, okay.
I'm like,
all right.
but you
See
you
you
have
later.
to be so dialed into something that's so narrow, and that narrow focus we're just not used to, and it's growing us, painfully for me. It is really hard.
I did a 5-minute speech right before I started trying to write, and I completely fucked it up.
Oh yeah.
And I think that threw my mind off of like, dude, that was so bad because I ran out of time. And so I think I just was super stressed about the 18. I took 4 talks out of the first one that I wrote.
Yeah.
So I took 3 talks out of it and have put in my talk folder of like, I'll develop that deeper.
Later, yeah.
But to your
Same.
point, I think that was my breakthrough of like, and I still have to finalize my title.
Oh, nice. Me too.
My title was not well
Mine's not what I want either. It's
received.
Gonna take. Yeah, me neither.
Like, you got to change your title. I'm
We'll,
like, yeah.
we'll work on that. Amanda said the same thing. She's like, that's weak sauce. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Fair play. Fair play. I don't love it either. But, we got to just keep going. And again, I kind of bring myself back to, and you're going to have this with your little one. I mean, they're watching you. And so the older, is it a girl?
Yeah, 1.5-year-old little girl.
And the older that she gets, the more that you're going to want to be the best, like Jim 2.0 that you can be because they watch you. And so, but that makes it hard too. I mean, I have to remain calm, but also remain like, steadfast in my bravery.
I don't think I told you this. I almost didn't submit the TED Talk. I waited to the last day, the last hour, and was sitting on a bench in 5th and Broadway
Dude,
before a meeting.
I'm not trying to one up you. Me too. Last day I could
I
submit
got
it
full body goosebumps right now.
at midnight because I wasn't ready, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, why am I doing all this effort for me to be told no? In my mind, I was like, I'm gonna have to do this 20 times. All right, well, here goes one.
Same.
19 more.
Same. Yes. That's
And
awesome.
then we got
I
it.
love it. And we got it.
And then we got it.
And we got
What's
it.
crazy about this is
We
a
got
kind of
it.
a funny story is that the next day I went in and I just to school and I told my kids, my students, I'm like, guys, I always tell you, like, we're gonna try it, we're gonna fail it. I'm telling you, I submitted a TED talk. They're like, oh, Hickey, that's awesome, that's so cool. I'm like, yep, but don't worry, because I'm not gonna get it. Let's take bets on how many times it's gonna have to take for me to submit one. They're all like, "Oh, different." And one kid's like, 84. I'm like, thanks for the vote.
Yeah. Love you, Dave.
They've all got different votes.
All that extra help I gave you, Dave.
I know, whatever. He doesn't go to our school anymore. What? But anyway, and I'm like, okay, but that's okay. And I did this whole thing on failure. That's when all the cool stuff happens to us or whatever. And yeah, that happened on that very first one.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Wild.
Yes.
You too.
Yes.
You too. I do have to say, I cannot wait until it's over. I'm telling you, like, there's going to be like pre-TED and post-TED life.
Yeah.
In your conference. You're not free until that's over. But when it is.
Well, then we're having a little boy right after in October.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's going to be
I didn't know.
This whole
Congratulations.
September, October,
Yeah.
and then Ellie turns 2 in November. So yeah, it's going to be a really cool
That's awesome.
end of
Congratulations.
the year. Yeah.
Nice.
We're fired up. But to your point, I want to get through it so I can understand the impact it had. Like,
Yeah.
not so much like, ooh, I don't want to, and I don't want to sound like I'm ungrateful or anything like that, but like,
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. Like, I want to just see what my work has done from an impact. Not
I'm
like,
not there yet, but I will be.
Jim, you're going to do a TED, not to say I did it.
Yeah.
Like that, but like really to go, okay, it's done. And what's going to happen? Is this thing going to go nuts, or do I have to start preparing for the next one?
I need to get there. That's a good advice. I haven't thought about that part yet. I'm thinking more selfishly. I'm ready to let this not be taking up so much of my head and
Of your
heart space.
energy, yeah.
Yeah, it's my energy.
Totally. I mean, yeah.
And refining things and thinking and wondering and poring over every word, and I mean, all of that is taxing.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good day.
It's gonna be a great
celebrate.
day. It's cool. I mean, and again, the process is nothing like I ever thought.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for it. I'm trying to enjoy it. I'm trying to really tell myself, like, this is only going to happen this one time, and this is something that's so special. But it's hard, it's hard in the moment to.
Oh yeah, I mean,
grateful.
I was
To be
like
grateful.
sick. I was like
Yeah.
not sleeping, and yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely one of those things where it's work,
Yeah.
and it's not just write a speech.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that. Anybody listening, don't have an ego, because I did, and I went into it and I completely fucked it up.
Yeah.
And grateful for the support and friends, and having some discipline to just get myself in a place where I could just be me and flow, and put my Beethoven in my headphones, and brought me back to taking college finals. You know?
Beethoven. Oh, no. I'm like more like Biggie, like I'm like angry.
If you
angry
listen
people
to
scream
me,
at me.
if you're in the car with me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't listen to Beethoven. I only listen to that when don't know what else to do.
When
I'm
you're lost.
so stressed. Yeah.
That's
and
the only.
it's the last time I had.
It's your little pacifier.
It is.
Pacifier.
Yeah. Give it to me. Send it. But it the only other time was finals, when I was like, I don't have money to take I have to pass.
Yeah.
I have to graduate. If I fail this, I cannot pay these classes anymore. I don't have the money. And that's when I did the Beethoven and took the finals.
Hey, whatever works.
So oddly enough, I'm back to Beethoven.
If it works.
Haven't done that since I was 22, but sure, we're here.
Whatever.
Bringing back the past.
Whatever it takes.
That's it.
I'm telling you.
What is the most excited thing or what are you most excited about with TEDx? So obviously, we just talked nerves. We talked, oh, we can't wait till it's over. But like, there's got to be some excitement around it.
Well, you got me thinking. I mean, I haven't been to this place yet, but I am really excited. I hope that what I picture happening is the talk being in a professional development that is being given to teachers, and to tell them and to give them carte blanche to be themselves, and to talk about building relationships amongst their students.
Wow.
That's what I hope to see happen. I hope to see little baby steps towards, you know, it being about these kids connecting with each other, because, you know, there's a lot of loneliness and social media and all of these things that make it so hard to be a teenager right now and to be a young adult. And we're seeing a lot of mental health issues. And I think it starts in the classroom before the home sometimes.
Yeah.
Because in the home, you're everything about your brain is telling you to leave the nest. That's if everything is going well,
Yeah.
right? It's from back in the day, tribal days, where you're trying to move away from the tribe and start your own life. And so at home, it's hard to have a lot of an impact on your own children, because they're flying the nest. And so teachers become an integral part of children's
Historically,
success.
they want to separate at that age.
Yeah, and they
at
should
that
be, and that's
point.
what they're supposed to be doing. But they need more support than ever. And where are they getting that from if they're not getting it from their teachers and coaches and mentors? So what I hope to happen is that we see more mentors for this age group step up, and then we start to see more teachers having some of these conversations around social emotional learning and connection amongst students, because they're super connected digitally and face to face. They really, are struggling, a lot of them, to.
I was gonna say you see it probably every day. Some of those students that are just so don't know how to interact, right? I mean,
How to have hard conversations, how to, traverse something that might be a little bit like awkward.
yeah.
It's those skills are learned usually outside of the home. So if they're not being taught in schools, I feel like we're remiss in part of what we're doing as
Well, who
educators.
teaches them? I mean, really,
Right.
what's the next thing on the ladder
Right.
of growth? Is where does that come from?
Right.
A sport, maybe, but
Yeah,
like,
which it does, which is great.
but
But
I've
there's lots of
also
kids not involved in
but I've
sports.
also seen coaches spend time with athletes who perform at a high level, not so necessarily. In my experience, I've seen it. The coaches spending all the time with the best players and not necessarily bringing up the folks that need it, right? So like,
And those kids aren't making the team. And the problem is,
and I've had the coach that I've seen it both ways, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying, right? I've had the coach that helps everybody, and I've had the coaches that are just like, these are the people that I'm putting my time and energy in, top 10%. Everybody else is, feast or famine, figure it out.
Yeah. Yep.
So you don't get it always there either,
Yep.
but kudos to the coaches that do help
Yes. And they're out
humans, not just high performers in that specific sport.
there. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Sounds like this goes deep for you.
It's one of those things where I didn't have any of this, right? I didn't have mom or dad to go to. I didn't have teachers I talked to. That was actually the last thing. I was in and out of there as least as possible as I could. Like, I was cutting every class I could and getting detentions and whatever, right? Like, but I didn't have it in sports, and I found it in friends. And that's why human connection is so important to me, because if I didn't have friends, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
If I didn't have friends, I'd be selling drugs. I'd be
Good
God
friends.
only knows.
You had good
know?
friends. And I think it's hard for kids now in the digital age to find good friends like that. And you can imagine where you would be
course.
without them.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, you might talk on like Snapchat, but you don't actually like talk to the person in real life, which is so concerning.
Well, I think it's feeling those emotions, right? Like if you were, and this is what I'm going to talk about human connection in TEDx, but like heightened experiences, heightened emotions and beliefs. If there's alignment in those, so for instance, let's take high school. My girlfriend that I thought I was going to marry dumps me, right? Well, I'm like freaking out, but that friend is there for me because that friend got dumped by their
Right.
sweetheart a year ago or 2 weeks ago even, right? And like that connection's so much deeper because we just shared heightened emotions around an experience. And that bond is going to develop at a much higher level than someone who I just texted and was like, got dumped. Oh, yeah, me too. Feeling that,
Right.
crying together,
Uh-huh.
physical touch, the hug,
Yeah.
maybe even
Yeah,
like
all that.
if it's a guy to guy back in the day, I know me, like we wouldn't be hugging, but we would be like, I got you,
Tone, facial
brother, and
expressions,
like
all of that. So we're missing so
body
much of that
language.
because, and I don't know if you know this, but or have any experience with this, but and I looked at a lot of facts. I'm doing a lot of research right around all of our stuff. One of the things I found was that kids are getting their driver's license. 25% less kids are getting their driver's licenses now. Yeah, yeah. So that's reduced. And if you think about it,
I was gonna say, well, why? I got a million reasons I can probably guess.
so a part of it is there's nothing to drive to. I have everything I need in this house,
Wow. Okay.
right? Maybe because mom and dad are helping me with that,
Yep.
whatever that may be. Money is an issue, and a lack. I think sometimes it's a lack of some place to go. Where is there to go that you don't have to spend money? That's not a friend's house. That maybe you haven't been invited to the friend. Maybe you don't have friends that would have you over in that way, right? You don't know them like that.
Get on Call of Duty and talk and
That's
shoot
right.
guns.
I can get on Call of Duty. I don't need to go to your house.
But I'm not, you're not having a pool party
Yeah, exactly. So
or a
that
cookout or birthday.
I find a lot of my students now are not getting their driver's license.
Wow. Mm-hmm. See, that's like complete opposite of me. I was
yeah.
like,
Me too.
when can I get it as
Right.
early as I can so I can get
and
away?
I'll never see you until I maybe graduate high school that day. You just wanted to be out and about and doing. But now a lot of the doing is happening online. So there's no need to be in a room face to face with somebody else anymore.
I never thought
Or
of
they're
that.
all FaceTiming each other together. So
Everybody's seeing each other,
yeah, exactly.
but they're not in that
They're
proximity.
not in the same room. Yeah, not the same. Is it better or worse? I don't know. I think there's some things about this generation that have me so hyped for the future because they've got it really figured out. And some of the stuff that I'm like, it's just changing. We said the same thing when we had color TV.
Yeah.
Telephones, in our hand. What?
Yeah.
So it's more of this. So I don't want to be just 100 years old, but I also think it's important to be thinking through, like, are they getting the social needs met in school? And I've had kids that have gone through their whole day in school and have spoken to no one.
Wow.
I've had many students tell me,
Wow.
the only person I've talked to in my day, Mrs. Hickey, is you.
I mean, that is.
So if you're
sad.
asking me, like,
Sad.
my TED Talk, that's
sad.
That's important to me.
It's sad.
So yeah.
I mean, I can only understand, like, the trauma that's going to come from that.
Yeah, and
Of
I'm
feeling.
not saying that everyone, of course, is. I mean, that's
No,
that's,
no,
I'm
yeah.
probably speaking to the minority. A lot of my kids are super social, right? Be quiet. But I'm also seeing that we need to look on the periphery, and maybe it's because I've been living in a foreign country for 5 years, and my kids as well, and seeing, like, who needs help. School shooters, all of them come down to the commonality is loneliness.
Yep.
That's what we can trace it back to. So are we looking around the room and deciding, hey, let me reach out to this person. Let me sit over here today. Kind of creating those kinds of social norms in classrooms, I think is.
I mean, they say
important to me.
loneliness is worse than being an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. It's worse than smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Gosh, I could see that.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's what
And if you look
kills
at the
people.
blue
It's
zones,
the
have you
silent
talked about the
killer.
blue zones or read or researched about the
No.
blue zones?
No.
These are the places where they have the most centenarians, the people that have lived the longest. What they have in common, they're researching them, trying to figure it out. Well, one of them, and the highest, is friendship. Having good friends. That's what is the key to happiness in a long life. It's not what you would think about food.
Yeah. Experiences, materials, none of that.
It's walking and consistent exercise, friendships, and having a purpose.
Yeah.
Having a purpose.
Still activating, still impacting, still doing something.
Having a reason to get out of bed, to go
Exactly.
help this person, to go check on my chickens, whatever. I mean, some of them are
Well, think
third
about it,
world
right?
countries.
Like when people are depressed, oftentimes they don't leave their house or they lay on the couch or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like they don't want to see anybody, they don't want to interact, and they get sicker and sicker and sicker. It's because, in my belief, is all those things are happening where they're not mobile. They're not, they don't feel loved in a lot of
Yeah.
cases, right? And like, I'm no expert on depression, but just friends that I've talked to is like, it comes down to like that we're missing love. And a friendship is love, right? Like a relationship is love. It doesn't need, it can be platonic. It doesn't need to be sexual. It doesn't need to be your spouse, but there's a love exchange. There's compassion. There's empathy. Someone cares about you. You feel felt. You feel known, heard, seen, right? That's human connection. And that's what's so important to me. And I just love this conversation because now I'm like, man, I got to research blue zones and like
Yeah, it's cool. You
the
research it.
friendship side of it. And it's the only way to live a happy life. And I believe happiness is a choice, and you can decide to spend time with other people no matter what the situation is. You can be broke. There's plenty of people that are living on the streets that you can spend time with right now if you have nothing, right? And like, how do we take advantage of those situations at every level of where we're at, whether we're up financially, we're down financially, whether we just lost a loved one, whether we just brought a human into the world. Like, everybody has these positive and negatives. How do we just get to the point where there's love being received and given? And I think we're so caught up with the socialism and the politics of the world, and it's just bullshit. Because all it's doing is pulling us away from just loving our neighbor.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck. Like, people are, you're a Democrat to the left, fuck you. You're a Republican to the right, right? And like, you remember this stuff. I mean, you were in Spain, but here locally, people are fighting in their front
In their
lawns.
families. In their families.
And in their families.
In their nuclear family.
Over an
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Like, where did debates go?
Yeah.
I mean, we know where they went. If you watched the last one, it was absolute garbage. And I'll leave politics there from a leadership standpoint. But, like, there's no love. And I think that's where we're going wrong in leadership is, like, transparency, authenticity, right? Like, loving ourselves enough to be open and share and love the person to give them the truth. We're missing that in so many ways.
Yeah.
Rant over. Sorry, rant.
Whoa, I was like, whoa, let him cook. Whoa, go off.
Thanks for coming today.
It's fun.
And doing this. This was awesome.
It's great.
I
I
really
love
appreciate
talking
it.
about. I love talking about pouring into all these kids that, you know, that get to be you and I like sitting at this couch. I kind of future focus on them. So it gives me such. Yeah, it gives me purpose.
Last question for you.
Yes.
Your kids, the classroom ones.
My classroom ones.
And then your kids' kids.
Uh-huh.
Your kids.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you teach the kids in your class the same way you teach your children?
This is funny because my son is in my class.
Really?
This year. Yeah, my son is in my class this year. So this is weird.
This is cool.
Yeah, I wish
this is
he were
even
here
cooler
to
now.
answer that. You know,
But like, can you be as real and honest in the classroom? My question is, can you be as real and honest as you would to your kids in this?
Yeah.
In this ecosystem that you teach in, basically.
I'm gonna say.
Does that make sense?
Yes. No, you're making sense. My answer is a couple of things that I do. The first is I think if their parents were in the room with me, would they understand my heart and where I'm trying to take their child? And the answer is usually yes. And a lot of times I will even call parents and be like, I had a really hard conversation with so-and-so. You know, I just have high expectations for them, and I just want you to know and be looped in on, you know, this is what's going on. Sometimes they know about this and sometimes they don't know. But getting on the same page, and I have a lot of buy-in from parents because they know that my heart is such that I'm thinking of my own child and what I would want for my own child.
It bleeds through.
Yeah, and I want them to know that that's where it's coming from. And I've knock on wood, but I've never had an issue where a parent didn't understand and see my heart because I told them. Yeah. I explicitly said, it's because I love your child. And they get it. So when it starts there, we can kind of go anywhere. And they also know that I'm genuine because I put in the sweat equity to prove it. and it works out. But it also is, it doesn't come naturally to everyone. So I can't expect that from everyone in the classroom. It doesn't. For some people, their passion truly is like chemistry, or their passion is really like physics, and my passion is kids and Spanish. But I love kids, and I just want I want them to do brave, big, scary stuff, and I want to push them to do that.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's land the plane there. Thanks for being here today. You absolutely crushed it. My mind is burning, and I'm grateful for having you. So thank you.
And for us being on this journey together.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Cool.
We get to share this stuff forever. It was just neat to me.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you out the next episode.